Like this is a real programming.
Okay.
Case, yeah. So if they would love to, actually write, business logic, and there are people that love writing logical code like I do. Yeah, that's why I enjoy backend engineering. So they will really love it.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, no issue. So I think we'll see how we can, because I mean, I personally love backend development as well, and I believe, so for those that I think some people, just expect to see a lot of magic happen, without passing through like the early phase and practicing, some of the basic things you need to know. Like, I remember my conversation with you when we're talking about prototyping. You have like a business logic or use case for a company, and you need to quickly come up with a prototype, to make them believe that this is achievable with JavaScript or with OOP, which of course I believe we're going to be doing some basics on that today. Not specifically prototyping, but at least with OOP. OOP is kind of like the most practical way to implement prototypes, backend prototypes using JavaScript.
Exactly.
So, yeah. I think we can kick off already. I've taken 7 minutes of your time, so probably just go ahead, share your screen, introduce yourself, and yeah, let's get started.
Okay, so let me share my screen right now. You can still hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. So I'm just muting myself so I don't disturb the session. I can hear you.
Okay, it's fine. I'm not able to share my screen right now. I think it's due to settings.
All right, admin, can you, I think Amaka is behind the accounts.
Okay, all right, Daniel, you can try it again.
Okay.
Okay, works. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we can. I can personally see your screen. So if you can't see Daniel's screen, let us know in the chat. There's a chat there, and I think Samuel, I hope you're aware that your camera is turned on. Yeah. So if you can't see Daniel's screen, please drop it on the chat. Let us know on the chat. Also, if you have any question while he's teaching, feel free to drop it on the chat. I'm sure he's looking at it, and I'm also looking at it. To point out important questions as we are learning. All right. Yeah, go on, Daniel.
Okay. So yeah, today we are going to be talking about object-oriented programming in JavaScript. Personally, is one of the topics I enjoy. I really enjoy working with object-oriented, programming style. So today I'll just be, briefing us on how we work with objects in JavaScript. So let me just get rid of everything here. Let's start afresh. So before we proceed, I'd like to let us know. In JavaScript, object is one of the primitive data types. So meaning like some of the the data types are baked into JavaScript as a programming language. And yeah, so almost you find out that objects are present in almost every entity in JavaScript. Yes. So for example, let's say const yes, array is equals to maybe 1, and then we want to do log let's say the type of, I'm sure you're familiar with the type of operator. So let me kindly run this in my terminal. I just want to show us that this is an array, but yet JavaScript will tell you that an array is an object. So let's run it. Node object. So you see, the type that was printed out is objects, not array. So you see that objects are very, very important in JavaScript. So it's good to get familiar with them. So yeah, let's dive straight into it. So in JavaScript, there are 3 ways which I've seen that are very popular to create objects, though there are many other ways. So there are 3 popular ways to create objects. First of all, there's the object literal, which we are very familiar with by now. So let's say an object is equals to something like this. I say name maybe Daniel. So I'm sure most of us are familiar with this. This is one way to create an object. So right now, that is an object. And yeah, so the next way to create objects is using the object constructor, the constructor function, where we do something like function. I'm sure some of us will be seeing this for the first time. So function person is equals to this, and then you do this dot name is equals to Daniel. So right now you think this is a function, and yet you can do something like let's say me equals to new person. And if you go ahead and log the type of me, you find out that it will still be an object. Okay, so it's not maybe assigning a function to that variable me. It's actually creating a new object. So this method is called the object constructor method. So if we go ahead and run it again, you find that it's still object that's printed out there. Okay, so yeah, this is the second way. The first way was the object literal. Now the second way is the person and the constructor function way. So please, if you have any question as we proceed, please drop it in the chat. Okay, I would love us to be very interactive as we are going through it. So yeah, and then the third way, which is the standard way, is using classes. So I personally use this a lot. Yeah, I was taught by Mr. Marv himself. So I've come to love this method. So let's say class, let's choose a name. Let's say vehicle. And then here you could specify a constructor, but we'll go into that later. But here we can just give it properties. Let's say name is equals to Daniel, and we could give it age equals to 1000 or something. Yeah, and then we could create a new instance, something like let another me is equals to a new vehicle. My vehicle, I don't know that, but yeah. So another me can be a new vehicle, and then we could go ahead and console log the type of another me, and then go ahead and run it. You still get object. So you get this class is basically like a blueprint for creating an object, meaning that for every single object you create using this class, it's gonna be having these two properties, the name and the age. And yeah, you could specify as many as you want, even if a method. Okay, when we have functions inside objects, they are called methods. They're no longer called functions. Please take note of that. So you're gonna be hearing me using methods very frequently. So we could say we have another method here. Maybe we call it say name. say name, and all it does is just maybe console.log this dot name. Okay, so and you see this is actually like a pointer to this particular entity. So here you could find out that we use this to point to this constructor function. So here, when you want to access maybe properties that belongs to this object, you use the this operator. If you just use name here, JavaScript would think maybe there's another local variable called name here. If you decide to use name without appending the this, so it should check if there is a name variable here, and then if it is, it prints that out. If it doesn't exist, it will tell you that it's undefined. Okay, so if you go ahead and do that, you can see it's already flagging that out, that maybe it doesn't exist. So let's go back and print this dot name, and let's see. Let's run. Okay, we already have an instance, so we do another me dot say name. See, we use the dot operator to call the method that's contained in that class. And if you go ahead and run, let's console log this. Sorry, let's comment this out. And then when we run this, we'll find out that we'll get Daniel. And what's Daniel? Daniel is the name that's contained here. Okay. So yeah, let's go to constructors. Let's go to constructors. So in classes, you could create a constructor. What is a constructor? It's a method which you could use to build an object or initialize an object. Okay, so maybe what if you didn't want to hard code the name as Daniel? You wanted it to be maybe any person, which you could dynamically pass in the name. So you could say pass that name as a parameter for the constructor, and then maybe an age. So yeah, when we do that, inside here, we'll simply say this dot name is equals to name. And then this dot age is equals to age. So that's basically what we do, and then we get rid of this. Okay, so now
Okay, so I want you to let me know if anyone is having a challenge, hearing Daniel. Let us know in the chats. Daniel, I think maybe you should also check the network. Okay, so Daniel, I think you should check your network, Daniel. So okay. So obviously it's from Daniel's end. Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. I think it is disconnected at the moment. So let's just
I'm clear now.
Yes, but I mean I think it's still breaking a little bit. But you can proceed.
Okay, so let's continue. So I was in the process of creating, a new object using the constructor. This with two values, where Victor is the name, this, and then the age is 400. So if we call this method, we should find that another we should print out Victor instead of Daniel that was there before. So if I go ahead and save this and I run it again, you should find Victor being printed out. Okay, so you can see that there's Victor there. So you could pass in as many names or any name you want actually. So I've run out of names, so let's leave that. So yeah, that's about constructors. Please, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. Okay, I don't want to like pass over it when there are people that still don't understand. Please drop your questions in the chat. I'm currently looking at it right now. If you understand that, please just give me an emoji signifying that you understand. Hello, guys.
Yeah, so the question is, if you understand, just drop any emoji. So let me start by dropping one, because I do understand, and I've also seen the feedback. We have more fives in the chat. So yeah, you can proceed, Daniel. We can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, as a brief recap, there are three major ways to create objects. The first is using this, which is called the object literal notation. The second one is using the object constructor, the function constructor, and then the third is using classes. Okay, so any of these three, you could use them to create objects. And now there is another important thing about objects, which is the pillars of OOP. So there are actually 4 pillars. I'm going to be talking very extensively on one of them, which is inheritance. So imagine now we have this class vehicle, which is used to create vehicle, used to create vehicles. And actually, let's modify it to actually match what we are doing. Let's say this is the model instead of age. So let's see the vehicle name and the vehicle model, right? So and let's say we have another class, which is cars. Cars are also vehicles, right?
Daniel, you're
so let's say cars, and if you want, side is there? I think actually.
Daniel, your network is still very bad. It's still breaking.
Wow. Why is it so bad today now? Of what is?
So please, probably you should check your router or Wi-Fi, but just to avoid like creating a bad experience in the yeah. So just try to check it, and let's continue. Okay. I will take some of the questions in the chat. Someone is saying they can't see options for emoji. We can't. I think there's an option for emoji in the chat. I don't know if you're using a phone. Maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, Daniel, just you can continue, but anytime the network becomes very bad, I would always have to let you know first.
Okay. So, I think I've seen one question there. Can you define a parameter that is not inside a constructor inside constructor function? Sorry, I don't really understand. Do you mean like maybe you want to you don't pass a parameter, but you want to say maybe this dot let's say year, the year the car was created is equals to 2000. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so he said yes. So basically, I think he got the term wrong, but he said yes.
Okay, so yes, you can do that. You can do that, and it will still work. Okay, it's not every parameter. If you want to maybe set default values, like maybe you want every vehicle to be manufactured in the year 2000, you could simply do this and it would work. Okay. So yeah, we're talking about inheritance, and now we wanted to create a cars class that inherits from vehicle. So now what will it inherit? These properties. every single properties that vehicle has will be inherited by cars. And how do we do that? We use the extends keyword. So what does it extend? Vehicle. So this simply means that cars is inheriting from vehicle. And inside here, you have to specify a constructor. Why? Because the previous class had a constructor. Okay, so inside the constructor, there is something you have to do. You see all the parameters that this one got. You have to get them or set them. You have to set them for the class you inherited from, and there's something called super. This will call the constructor for the class that cars is inheriting from, which is vehicle. And now what are the parameters that vehicle needs is name and model. So we go ahead and pass in name and model. And now, since we are not accepting those parameters here, it will flag an error. So we have to accept it here too, name and model. So, and you could add maybe other properties here. Let's say car has 4 tires. Okay, maybe you want to add tires, and then when you call this constructor, you could also go ahead and say maybe these are tires is equals to tires. You get. So this will call this constructor and then set these values based on what you passed here, and then this other one, this will set this. So let's go ahead and create a new instance of the class. So let's say const which car would we use? Let's say Toyota. Toyota is equals to new car. I think I should have used car. New cars doesn't sound correct. So yeah, let's make it sound correct. Okay, so the first parameter we need in this constructor is the name of the car. So what's the name of the car? Let's say it's Hilux. I love Hilux, pickup trucks. So let's go with Hilux, and then the model. Yeah, okay, name and model is kind of sounding redundant. But let's go with the flow. Let's call it Hilux latest edition. Okay, and the tires, how many tires does the car have? 4. So yeah, we have this Toyota variable, which is an object that will contain this. So now let's check. You see that this is inheriting from this. So meaning this method here, this variable has this method. So meaning you could do something like Toyota.say name, and this would work normally. So let me hide every other console log, and let's run this. And then you find out that Hilux is being printed out. Okay, so this variable still has the method that was gotten from vehicle. And even inside here, you could maybe define other methods like maybe get the model. Maybe you wanted to get the model from this car. You could just console.log the model, this model. Okay, and then this would work. So you could also come down here and call Toyota.get model. So you call this and it would also work. So if you go ahead and run that, you find out that Hilux is the name of the car, and then the model is Hilux latest edition. So you could see. So the good thing about this is that maybe if I found that I made a mistake here, for example, name and model, they are redundant, and I decide to get rid of name, Okay, so I can just do that. Now I've updated this class, and if I could just, get rid of this here, you find out that whatever I did here would affect this other class. Let's go ahead and check. Okay, so I have to get rid of this too. Okay, say name now. You find out that there's no name. So this should give you undefined because there is no property belonging to this class called name. So let's decide to change this to maybe get model. So right now we are changing this class, and whatever change we make here will flow down to this other class. To flow down, we already have a get model here. And guess what, guys? If we have a get model here and a get model here, what do you think is going to happen? So what's going to happen is whatever, this class, whatever you define as the get model method in this class will override this other one. So imagine that maybe you didn't want to maybe use this method inside this class. You wanted it to have a different behavior. You could come here and override that function. Maybe you don't want it to console log. You want it to console log maybe a string called model. Yeah, and then maybe the model after it. So which do you think is going to work? So first of all, let's see the base class, which is very cool. Is console logging just the model, and then this other class, which inherits from very cool, is console logging model, and then the model. So and now we created a new instance of this new class, and then let's see if we call the get model method, which one will get run, this or this? So let's run it now. Okay, we have to get rid of say name somewhere. I think I haven't saved this. Okay, so we find out that model is printed out before the model. So meaning that this method has overridden this method, and that is this one we are using. So that's a very, very important property in object-oriented programming. As you're inheriting, maybe if you don't want the former properties, that maybe your parents had, you could change it. Okay, that's car vehicle is called the parents class, and then this one is called the child class. So if you want to change maybe a property on the parent class, you could just define it and then change it, and it will work for you. Okay, so that's another important thing in object-oriented programming. And yeah, you could also extend this other one to create another class out of car. And you see it flows down. Everything this one has, everything vehicle has flows down to cars, and everything cars has, if you create a new class, will flow down to it. So basically at the end of the day, you just have a hierarchy of inheritance. Okay. So that's one very, very important feature. You decide to create a structure where for example, we have people in an organization. You have people, and then you have another class that inherits from the people class. For example, we have employee. So first there's people, there's a people class, and then there's the employees. So the employees will inherit from the people class. For example, the people class can maybe just have a name. Okay, let's implement this right now. So class people would have name. I'm trying to show us like a real use case right now. So there's a class for every single person in the organization, and then if that person is an employee, okay, then there'll be a new class that will inherit from the people. So at the end of the day, we'll have employees, extending extending people, and then whatever you had in people will flow down to employees. For example, we had this dot name is equals to Daniel. Yes, I'm one of the people in the organization. Sorry, this is not constructed. I was flagging this out. That's the difference. Please take note of this. Whenever you're using classes and you just want to define a property inside the class, okay? If you are defining it inside the root of the class, you don't use this. The only place you do that is where you're using the function, constructor. You have to use this here. So not here. Please don't make that mistake like I just did. So yeah, the people class has a property called name. And here, now we know that this will inherit name from people. Okay. So and here we could decide to add, the department. Okay, what department is this person working? If he's an employee, let's say sales. You get. So yeah, this class automatically has the name and then the department, properties. And then maybe you decide to extend it again. Let's say inside the organization we have maybe managers, class managers. Okay, so it will extend because all managers are definitely employees, right? Extends employee. So here you just do maybe position is position is managers. Caps lock. Yep. So now if we go ahead and create a new manager now, let's say let's say Wale, let's call person Wale is equals to a manager. Okay. Right now we will know who Wale is. You know why? Because Wale has the name property and then he also has the department. So meaning he's a manager in this particular department. Do you understand? So we could go ahead and maybe access something like Wale.name. At the end of the day, we have this about Wale, and then we could do Wale.department. You see, and then we know Wale.position, So at the end of the day, you could find out that just by inheriting, from different classes, you could now define a real world object, that has different properties. And the good thing about this is that it's very, very easily modified. So here I could come and maybe we say we needed age for every person in the organization. We could come here and add age, maybe is equals to 20. And then here we could directly access age. All we just had to do is make a change to just one class, and then it will flow down the inheritance chain. So you see, this is very, very important, and very, very, practical. When we are talking about objects are used to model real world instances, okay? So, when we model real world instances, we try to make the code, as close to what you're modeling, as close to it as possible. So, yeah, that's for using class. So, yeah, another thing I want to talk about is, please, if you understand this, go ahead and tell me that you do. Go ahead and tell me that you understand. Okay. So let's move on. Please, if you have questions, drop them. If you don't understand this, drop them. So there's another way to access objects in JavaScript. Okay, so what if I didn't want to use this wallet.name, wallet.department, wallet.position? So there's another way to do it. Okay, so you would definitely have to use this in most situations. And then in few situations where you have to do some kind of operations, you access it using the square brackets or array way. So you do wale and then you now find out what is it you want to access. Okay, this is the same thing as wale.name. So if you want to try it, we could console log it. Let's log it so that we can confirm. So let's console log this and clear out every other console log. Okay. So let's log this out to the console and see. Okay, something is still getting printed out. Let me just comment out everything to avoid confusion. So right now we are just looking for the name. We're trying to access it using this way. And I'll show us why sometimes it's practical to do this. So if you want to, let's see. Where is that error coming? I've commented out this. So why is it still giving me that error? Let's try it again. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. There is this down here. Yeah. So let's forge ahead. So you see now Daniel is printed out as the name. Okay, so you could access the department this way too, and then it would work. Now for the use case where you might want to do this is maybe you're expecting an object and you do not know whatever properties that object has. Okay, you have no idea, and maybe you needed to like look through the properties of an object which you don't know. So what you could do is do something like there's object, dot keys of let's say Wale. Okay. Now this particular method here is defined. This comes with JavaScript by default. So and it's also a way to create objects. Maybe we'll talk about that if we have the time, but this method simply gives us an array of all the keys we have inside this object here. It gives us all the keys in an array, and let's console log it so that we'll see it in action. Let's log it out. Okay, so if we go ahead and run that now, we'll see name, age, department, and position, which is where we have the name, the age, the department, and then the position. So you see, it's just giving us the keys, the property names that we have inside this object. Now here, you have that as strings. You can see that they are being printed out as strings. So if you have them, if you have it in that format, let me close this. If you have it in that format, how will you be able to do wallet dot maybe string? Or would you want to do something like wallet dot maybe age? This would definitely throw an error, okay, because you cannot use string here. So that's why this other way is important. So for example, we want to currently look through, the properties of this object. We'll just do object of keys, and then I'm sure we know the for each loop, right? Could do that for each, and then let's pass in a function. Inside this function, we'll have the value, which will be the keys. Okay, each of the keys will be passed here. So let's console log. Now we're accessing each of these objects, okay? Wale of key. So right now, every single property of this object is going to be printed out. So let's see. Let's go ahead and run this right now. And you see Daniel, which is the name, age, which is 20, the age here, which is 20, the department, which is sales, and then position, which is manager. So you see, now you could programmatically loop through the object using this way. So that's one use case to use, this array way of accessing objects instead of the dot method. So yeah, that's for that. And then there's also, when you want to delete an object's properties, okay? First, let's do it up here. Let's say we want to delete our left.age. We don't need it any longer. Then we go ahead and delete it. That's cool. We use the delete operator. Okay, it's just a keyword that will look for this property in this object and just get rid of it. So now if you want to console log wallet.age, you end up getting undefined. So let's test it out. Okay. Let's console log the age, and you see there we got undefined. Why? Because we have deleted the age. So take note of that. Take note of that. Okay, someone is saying they don't understand the constructors. Okay, so I'll go back to the constructors again. And we have to make sure we understand. That's why we're in the workshop. So yeah. In fact, I think let me just go back. Let me go back. Where is it? Okay, from here. So now, what is a constructor? Okay, we have a class named vehicle, and it has a constructor which takes in model as parameter. Now, what are basically constructors? They are just methods which you could use to initialize your objects when you create them. Okay, it's like maybe you want to buy a new car, and then as you are paying for the car, you want it to be red. You use constructors to like specify that. Okay, maybe you could also add something like color, and then you say, this dot color is equals to color here. You get the point. So to save time, I would not type much. So when we instantiate a new object like a truck, trucks are vehicles, right? So let's use that. So yeah, now what's the name of the truck? You see, at creation, we could specify the model here. So it's not baked in like maybe this value here where we just passed it in as a 2000. Here you could dynamically provide the model, and then it will set it in that object for you. So if you want the trucks model to be, which truck do we have? A Mercedes. Okay. So basically, we now have a new truck which has a model of Mercedes. So if you access truck.model, what you end up seeing is messages, right? So let's run that so that we could see and believe. Seeing is believing, right? So let's find out truck.model. So the model will be Mercedes. And if you go ahead and change it to what Mark or something, yeah, it will change and then give you Mark. Okay, it will give you whatever you specified in the constructor. So and this is also useful. Maybe if you have a property in your objects where you don't need it to be undefined, you could just set it here without passing it here. For example, let's say you need the mileage, okay, or maybe the year. In fact, this is a good example. The year of the car, it cannot be 0. There's, in fact, which year was 0? That year doesn't exist. So yeah, you could maybe specify the year as 2000. Yeah, so we could maybe come down here, and if we want to change the year, we could do truck dot year is equals to, let's say, was manufactured in 2015. Was 2015. So with that, you have changed the year. So if you go ahead and access truck dot year, you should get 2015. Hopefully, if that went well. Okay. So we see 2015. Yeah, so that's basically how constructors work. Okay, so you can specify as many parameters here, and then set as many variables as you want, and as many methods as you want. Okay, so when using the classes, it's very, very interesting to work with classes, because here, when you are creating objects using this method, you have to specify everything directly. And now, if you wanted to create an object, with properties that are, different, what will you do? Maybe you have to start doing something like const, and maybe object2 is equals to object, and let's say you now have to come and start changing things like objects2 dot name is equals to, you get. So this would be too long. Instead, there's a better way. Just use your class and then provide a constructor, and then you could dynamically set your values. And then finally, the last thing we are going to talk on today is the static methods. And this is only peculiar to classes too. We are talking of static methods. Static methods are methods that belong to the class alone. Like the object does not have it. It only belongs to this class. And how do you create static methods? You use the static keyword, static, and then what do we give? Let's say something. Sorry, I'm not really good at bringing up function names on this one. So let's say we have a static method called something, and then what it does is just to console log, let's say something. Now, let me show you something. So let me show you something. Okay, so if we try to access truck.something here, this is going to fail. Let's be sure. It's undefined, meaning that this variable here, this object, does not have any method called or any property called something. You know why? Because this belongs to this class, the vehicle class. So if you wanted to access something, instead of using truck, you go ahead and use vehicle dot something. Okay. But I'm supposed to call the method. So if we call vehicle dot something there, we get something. So you see, the static methods, they only belong to the class. Once you create an object from that class, that method will not be part of that object. Okay. So, and this is very useful. There are many objects in JavaScript that have static methods, and one of them is what I used earlier, which is object.keys. Object.keys. You see, this method belongs to this class, the object class. Okay, so any new, if it was to be inherited, any new object you create would have this .keys method, but no object has that. Okay, it only belongs to this object class. So there are others like objects dot assign, which is used to assign one object to another, and there are many of them. Okay, so there's even in the maths class, so there where you do maths dot let's say random, or you want to generate a random number. Okay, this is an example of a static method. So you don't create a new object first before you access that method. You can access it directly from the class. Okay, those are examples. That are what we call static methods.
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I mean it's 1 p.m. already. So the plan is
Whoa, I'm not even looking at the time. Sorry.
So someone is asking static method can be called without an object, I think. Yeah, correct. And that is what Daniel did in the console.log vehicle or something. So yes, you can. Yeah, so I think we would have to probably continue if you have more. If you have more, we'll have to continue in the next workshop session. But we'll also do a recap of this, as one of our videos that will be uploaded on YouTube. This will be recorded. I mean, this is recorded, of course, so this will be shared with you guys as well once it's uploaded, which means you shouldn't expect it, now. Let's just say in the next 24 hours, it should be on YouTube, and you would have access to it. So I think that is all for now. Yeah, Daniel, thank you very much for this session. If you have questions, you can drop the questions in the room. Daniel also has access to the room on Discord, so you can answer some of your questions. Okay. All right, Daniel.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, guys, and keep on coding, keep on practicing. Bye.
Okay, bye everyone.